to talk about storage for model trains. You can do a couple things. You can keep them in the boxes, or you can display them on shelves. And I've done both. Unfortunately, when I display them on the shelf, they collect a lot of dust. And invariably, because of how long I've been in the hobby, I have way more trains than shelf space. So for quite some time, I was looking for a solution on how to display trains and see them fast enough and well enough that I wouldn't buy multiple of the same ones that I didn't mean to, because I've forgotten that I had them. And this is the shelving process that I found that really is multiple iteration, and it's really good. It works very well, and I haven't seen an equivalent on any YouTube videos. So that's why I'm making this video. All right, so here's the shelf unit. There are 7 shelves here. This is ON30, so I put 3 inches separation between the shelves. And after I show you how it functions, the rest of the video will be how I built it, right? But what you'll effectively see is there's a piece of wood here on plywood, then the shelf, a space, plywood, wood, space, wood, all the way down, right? Now, the way these shelves function, they're very big, and because they're big and have a lot of space, I can really pull them out. I can separate the cars, right? So you can see all of the cars that I've sort of modified and built and added to, and there's enough space in all of this that my fingers can get across and build them, and visually I can inspect them. This is 4 feet long by 30 inches deep. There is a lot of square footage here, right? So this is one of those shelves, and they slide, and I'll talk about the sliding. Actually, I'll talk about it now. So this is a board of masonite, very thin strip, about that kind of thickness. And I just glue it on here and use a air gun to put it in place until the glue adheres to the piece of wood. And there's one on top, there's one on the bottom, and then I put some soap. Just rub some soap right on here, right? And it slides very nicely. Now, because it's this big, I really do have to use 2 hands, and I just push it in and in goes. Here's the next shelf. Again, same distance. Lots of real estate, very easy to put my fingers across and pick things up. Visually, I can see the whole field. Again, masonite top and bottom with hand soap. Not the liquid kind, just the hard soap that I've rubbed top and bottom. Then we'll take this one out in a minute, but this is the empty one. So you can see how much real estate there's. This is felt, right? And it's a kind of felt that doesn't have a lot of fingers, because with lots of fingers, they can catch the little bits and pieces of the trains that are sitting there. And then, so these are the shelves that I've modified things. Here are the shelves that have the new things that are waiting for modification. Again, lots of finger space. Very easy for me to see. This is a good example. I bought way too many of these dump cars. I saw a good deal and I just said, oh, let me buy it, and then not realizing that I have more than enough. I didn't need this many. Similar with the log cars. I bought way too many, not realizing how many I had. And then lastly, here is the more of the ON30 cars that I have. Again, lots of real estate, a lot of finger room, lots of box cars, not many duplicates. Again, because I've been able to visually see all of this. All right, let's take a quick look at how the shelf itself was built. I'm going to pull this one out completely. and I'm going to rotate it up so that you can see how it was built. This, you can see there's a wing right here. This is why I can pull out the shelf so far, is because this part stays inside of the wood, the channel. And the width here this way allows me wiggle in back and forth. So really good, it's a good design, slides easily. It is big, it does require both hands. Here's the masonite on the top. Here is, there's a masonite down here. I'm going to rotate this down a little bit so you can see. I have this piece of wood. I made a notch for the 2x4 plywood sheet that I cut, and I'm sorry, the plywood sheet that came in 4x8 into these 30x4 feet, and I used a air nail gun to put all of this together. Made sure there is no nail heads that are sticking up on either side. The other thing that I did is I added this aluminum channel, right, that goes up and down on the inside, and an aluminum channel that goes up and down on the front. And you can see I had glued, using fabric glue, for the felt in place first, and then pressed this on. It really just locks it all in place. Now I'm going to just put this back. Oh, maybe one quick thing to mention now that we have this out is you can see the channel that's right here that this wing will fit into. These pieces are never completely straight. So invariably what happens is there'll be a little bit of bowing which will squeeze on this. So I had to use a chisel to just remove that bowing and the squeezing on these pieces of wood. All right, so I'm going to put this in, and you can see the wiggle room I have, right? And because of those wings back here, I can really pull this out completely. So the length under my layout here is 36 inches. I needed at least a 6-inch wing back here. That's why this is only 30 inches long. And then I can just put this in. The total cost for all of this was about $500. If you ask me, well worth the cost. It stores things and it displays them very quickly. All right, the rest of this video is going to be pictures that I've taken as I was building this to show you the details of how I put this together. All right. What you're seeing here is my first attempt at a shelf, and you can see it was a foot deep. It had sort of this felt, and you use these rollers, these drawer rollers with plywood on the top, bottom, and the two sides. And you know, it got cramped, and I could only do 3 feet because it would sag, and it was half-inch plywood. So it worked kind of for a long time. Eventually, the wood warped or something happened, temperature changed, and it came off these rollers and fell on top of the cars below. A pretty bad moment. While I had this, I had 2 friends who gave me ideas, and I took an idea from each and then combined it with one of mine. I have a friend here who made his own drawers. He made all of these drawers himself, and he used, you see this really thin piece of masonite up here that he just put there, and top and bottom, and that's what these shelves were going back and forth on. And he just put a little bit of soap on either side, and these drawers were very smooth. They're almost 2 feet in distance and contained his HO cars very nicely. I have this other friend who does both S gauge and O gauge, ON30, and he actually managed to do 4 feet. This is in his garage, but he also used these rollers the way that I had them, and his went about 3 feet in. He's the one who started using this aluminum channel on the front to keep these things from bowing. And these have been in his garage for a very, very long time, and they haven't come off the rollers or anything. So just a beautiful way of storing all of his trains. So how do I get started? For me, for the shelves that you just saw, I had a piece of plywood. That was the side. And then I cut these pieces with enough gap in between that would fit comfortably, snugly, not too snugly, the arm that would slide in and out. Now, what happened, of course, is I did it wrong on one side, and it had been glued and nailed in place, so it wasn't worth trying to remove. So I just flipped it, did it on this side. I was trying to use these piece of masonite to lock things in place, but it turned out I just removed them. So you just need to have a piece of plywood and these long runners that will keep the arms of the shelf in place. The next thing you need, of course, is the space and the legs. So here's my layout, and here's one leg. I had to install another leg back here, and then 4 feet away, the width of the drawers, I had to put another leg and put the other piece of plywood that I had made with all of these channels in place. Unfortunately, wherever you need this to be, it was guaranteed that there would be something structural in the way on the layout itself, on the table of the layout. So I put in place this leg that was like angle, put in these things, and then just screwed them into place, and they're just not going to move. Very, very long screws. Now, here's what it looks like when you're kind of done. This bottom runner here is for the bottom shelf, and in order to keep these things from moving apart from each other, I put these two pieces. What turns out, it's a little bit tough because that aluminum U-channel gets caught on this back end back here. So not too complicated. This doesn't require a lot of skill in woodworking. Basically, I used a table saw for all of this. Now here's the drawer. You've seen this conversation about the drawer. Here's the masonite strip that I put in here. Here's the old shelf, much more crammed. And it's all these things that are going to go onto these shelves. And then, they're 4 feet long and 30 inches deep with the wing that we talked about on this piece of wood. Here's the start. Here's the first shelf, making sure that it's level. You always want to make sure, because I don't want trains rolling in one direction or the other. Even with the felt, it can do that, especially as you're pulling them in and out of this slot. Eventually, I removed all of this masonite. It was meant to just lock this wing in place. It just didn't work well enough, so no worries. All right. Here are more of the shelves in place, and you definitely, as you pull them out, want to make sure it's level this way as well, because if you have trains and as you're pulling them out, they can roll off your thing or roll off the back. That's the nice thing about the U-channel, is it provides a lip and stops the trains from coming off. So there it is. Here is the felt that was installed, all the trains that were put on. This is before I put the aluminum U-channel. I wanted to make sure this was going to work out. And I just use spray adhesive and put this on very smoothly with my hands. Just pushed and pushed and pushed, and that was it. Looks pretty nice. All right, try it out. Good luck.